Ojo, a 100-level student of the University of Ilesa, has died in a tragic electrocution incident after a lightning strike surged through an electric circuit where he was using his phone during a thunderstorm. The incident occurred Friday evening at his off-campus hostel near the Prototype Engineering Development Institute (PD) junction in Ilesa during a heavy downpour. Witnesses say Ojo was playing a mobile game on his plugged-in phone when he was struck. He was rushed to a nearby hospital but was declared dead on arrival. Confirming the developments, the university described the loss as unfortunate and deeply tragic. According to a statement by Registrar Funsho Ojo, Gbolahan was a first-year student in the Department of Business Administration. His remains have been deposited at the Wesley Guide Hospital morgue after police visited the scene and launched an investigation. In an emotional show of solidarity, top university officials, including Vice Chancellor Professor Taiwo Asaolu and the area commander of police, were present to receive and console the deceased father, who traveled down immediately after being informed. The institution has promised to continue to support the bereaved family and calls for prayers for the repose of Gbolahan's soul. The entire campus community remains in mourning. Sad, sad, sad one from Malaysia this morning. Let's talk about, there's been frequent discussions as regards taking calls or actively using devices that are connected to electricity. Why do you think people still do that despite several warnings that have gone through in previous years?
Sometimes it could be because many people don't believe these warnings to be true. Let me give you an example of an incident I witnessed. Apart from electricity, if you enter a filling station, you see one of the things you see there, you see mobile phone marked in S.
Right.
And that's a universal sign. Wherever you see something marked that way, that shows that it's not allowed there. But you still see people who try to take call or even initiate a call in a filling station in spite of that. And I had to call someone's attention to it that you are approaching a filling station, you're initiating a call. He said, "Oh, it's not true." So why do you think they put this notice there? I mean, let's even assume that you have not seen it happen. But you don't want to think that those guys who put those signs there are. Why would they want to deny you from making calls here? And how many more minutes would it take you to exercise patience after which you could return? Because
the whole idea of it's not true, does it come from, a part of not being aware or a part of, lack of literacy in the belief of that the thought pattern that is not true?
It could be a combination of many factors. Not being aware, which is not an excuse, being doubtful of certain things. Let me give you another example. Is this: most times the average Nigerian, when he buys a new phone, he doesn't go through the manual. And it's not just a phone, it's in many other things we use. You feel like, this is not the first phone I'm using. So you feel like it's everything. But but going through that manual one more time could help remind you of some of the cautions you have to observe when using. It's a common knowledge that if there is rain, especially with lightning, your contact with live electrical equipment should be reduced. So people should learn and know that even without it training, there is a warning that it is not always the best to make call while you are charging your phone. Of course, you understand that in this part of the world with the incessant power outage and all that, somebody may have to hurriedly make a call and the phone is completely down. There is this fear that as I initiate the call, the phone would go off. So you have to plug it in and make call. But always pause to wonder, which is better? Exercising patience that until the phone is charged, exercising patience on the phone is charged, to the extent that I can make call without it going off, or hurriedly making a call and risk the possibility of getting injured. And in this case, it wasn't even a call, it was a game he was playing. Maybe if he was a little bit cautious, maybe he would have just allowed the phone to charge before.
When I saw this report and it broke on social media on Twitter, certain people had a class of people, group of people had a thought pattern as regards why this happened. Now, certain people's viewpoint stemmed from the fact that the house was not properly earthed enough. That is why that could have happened. Given that we are heading towards a building collapse in Lagos just now, in Ikoju, do you think that that could be a factor why this could have happened?
It may also be a factor. In modern buildings now, almost every house you're building should have a thunder arrestor. It's just like you said, properly edited. There is this mechanism to foster such thing from happening. So that is why an investigation is essential in this case. And then, how mandatory are these things in the building approval? Is this something that is left for the developer or the landlord to decide that I want it or not? And some of these things, considering that they could pose a threat to life, and in this case a fatal threat to life, can we have a situation, if it is not currently so, where some of these things can be made mandatory, that as you're putting up a house, because you can't rule out these things happening every now and again, and this is rainy season we are approaching. Every now and again you have rains coming, and with rain comes lightning and thunder. So how do we protect buildings from being adversely affected by this natural circumstances and occurrence? So maybe if it is not already in the law, maybe it's high time it became part of the building process, that it's compulsory that before approval is given, we should have plans of seeing that the developer, whoever has plans to install these things to forestall, since we cannot stop the lightning from occurring, but when they occur, to ensure that it doesn't have adverse effects. And beyond having it in the plan, maybe also before, since this is something that is likely to be installed after a building has been completed, maybe you can also have a process to say, okay, maybe a post-building inspection before people are allowed to move into the a building. Maybe there should be an agency, or even maybe you don't need a new agency, or one of some of the already existing building agencies that could be included in their terms of reference, that okay, before a building is fit for habitation, there should be a last-minute inspection to ensure what has been put in place, so as not to have this type of situations again.
Thank you so much for your insight on that report.